Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. In commemoration of President's Day, a top DOGE senator is seeking to claw back $400 million sitting in a slush fund set up to help presidential candidates that hasn't been used in years, we're told. Elon Musk says that millions in the Social Security database are between ages of, you ready, 100 and 159, that there are far more eligible Social Security numbers than actual citizens in the United States. Our daily update on DOGE is ready. Is Fort Knox still loaded with gold? That's the question Kentucky Senator Rand Paul has been asking and has found an ally in Elon Musk and maybe finally answering the question. It appears DOGE has Fort Knox in its crosshairs now, and we might actually have an audit of just how much gold is being stored in the world's safest vault. And with another crash yesterday of a commercial aircraft, many people are asking, is air travel safe? According to experts, air travelers have nothing to fear. We have an update on the Delta flight in Canada and what aviation experts are saying about travel.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
People celebrated President's Day, Washington Day, whatever you want to call yesterday in different ways. A top senator who is on the Senate DOGE committee is seeking to claw back $400 million sitting in a slush fund. It's set up to help presidential candidates that hasn't borne fruit since Y2K. Through the eliminating leftover expenses for campaigns from taxpayers, it's called the ELECT Act, Senator Joni Ernst said that she hoped to defund an account she calls welfare for politicians. This President's Day, I'm fighting for the integrity of the office because the last thing we need to spend tax dollars on is more political attack ads, she said. There's no better way to pay down $36 trillion in debt than by defunding welfare for politicians. Washington should be working to benefit all Americans instead of itself. Ernst, the chair of the DOGE caucus in the upper chamber, remarked that the fund has not been successfully utilized in decades. The last winning presidential candidate to pull the fund or to withdraw from the fund was Texas Governor George W. Bush in 2000 and then again in 2004. Since then, according to Senator Ernst, a handful of unsuccessful candidates have utilized it, including former Vice President Mike Pence and Green Party candidate Jill Stein, both in the 2024 cycle. Now, Stein, of course, is making the biggest amount of noise on this. Pence's campaign reportedly received more than $1 million from the fund amid his GOP primary bid, while Ms. Stein utilized $380,000. The late Senator John McCain from Arizona also received $84.1 million from the fund in 2008. An FEC release from the time said nominees of major parties are entitled to $20 million plus a cost of living adjustment back to 1974. Defunding the account was first floated as one of the several proposals in a DOGE-centric November letter from Ernst to Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Stein told Fox News Digital the candidates' fund was rated of $375 million, and the Democrats too have tried to moot the effectiveness of the fund by trying to put public funding out of reach of grassroots candidates. Through her H.R. 1, as for the People Act, during the Biden era, she tried to limit this. A checkbox on your IRS 1040 tax return asks you whether or not you'd like to contribute $3 to the fund, which Stein has showed it is different than other public money, she said. Stein said it's outrageous, calling the effort to end the fund part of a bipartisan anti-democratic effort to stifle competition in presidential elections, specifically by denying voters the option to support publicly financed candidates who refuse to legalize bribery of big corporate contributions. Now, Jill Stein runs for president every 4 years. She added that a majority of voters have called for presidential candidates outside the two major parties, citing a Gallup poll survey showing that they do such a poor job of representing Americans. Well, if that's the case, Ms. Stein, why have you never won? Why has a third-party candidate not won in modern history? Stein said publicly funded campaigns are the antidote to the massive legalized corruption that puts more money in the funds or in the hands of billionaires than ever. The American people abhor the corporate buyout of our elections. She said eliminating public funding denies voters the option to support candidates who refuse to pay to play politics. Well, that may be the case. And look, I'll be the first to admit, campaigns have gotten way too expensive. It does rule out a lot of good people who would probably make good public servants. But that's how our system is. And by having this slush fund there, the only people who are going to benefit from it are perennial candidates like Ms. Stein, who evidently think she's entitled to public funds because she can't raise the millions of dollars that other candidates can raise. Again, I think campaigns are way too expensive, but again, that's our process. And I don't think our money should be used for individual political candidates. Now, in 2014, a portion of the presidential election campaign fund was redirected to pediatric cancer research through an act of Congress. Then Representative Greg Harper, a Republican from Mississippi, drafted a bill later signed by President Barack Obama that diverted such funds to an NIH research initiative. The House Majority Leader at the time, Eric Cantor, gave the measure a major leadership push after he heard the case of a young Leesburg, Virginia girl afflicted with a disease and decided to name the legislation the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act in her name. Maybe we need to establish another worthy organization like that and eliminate the money that's in the balance right now and never reestablish it. You know, switching gears a bit, but still talking about DOGE. We've always been suspect that the government is literally robbing us with fraud, waste, and abuse. Now, thanks to Elon Musk and President Trump's push for government efficiency, we have the smoking gun, proof on what may be the biggest scam in our history. Over the weekend, Musk posted something absolutely jaw-dropping. Turns out the Social Security database has millions of people supposedly over 100 years old with their death field set to false, meaning they're still living. Let me repeat that. Over 20 million people listed as alive and eligible for Social Security benefits are supposedly over 100 years old. To break this down, more than 3.9 million are between 130 and 139. Do you know anybody who's 130? More than 3.5 million are between 140 and 149. And get this, there's 1.3 million who are supposedly 150 to 159 years old. Now, how does this go on? How did this go undetected? Did no one in the Social Security Administration think to acknowledge that, gosh, that birth date looks like it's pretty back there. Looks like this guy's pretty old here. Is this possible? Now, folks, either we have cracked the code to immortality, or we've just uncovered a multi-trillion-dollar scam where dead people, or maybe people who've never even existed, are collecting Social Security. Now, the left is going to immediately start talking about how President Trump's going to cut Social Security. This is their defense against this. Has nothing to do with cutting Social Security. It has to do with making sure that every dollar that goes into the Social Security fund is spent wisely so that Social Security is there for you and for me. And Musk isn't going to stop here. He dropped another bombshell saying that there are far more eligible Social Security numbers than actual citizens in the U.S. So in other words, if you just look at the Social Security Administration's database and you look at Social Security numbers, which is what allows you to get into the system to request benefits, there are more Social Security numbers, active Social Security numbers, not those people who have died, and it's proven that they're dead, but active Social Security numbers, meaning they're eligible for benefits, than there are actual citizens in the U.S. I ask you again, and I'm full of questions today. How does this happen? How is this possible? This means we could be looking at one of the largest frauds in history if in fact there are people out there, there are this many people who are 100 plus years old who's receiving the money, because we know they're not receiving it. Somebody's receiving it on their behalf, and that's fraud. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Continuing today's show, you ask yourself, what's going on with plane accidents lately? Of course, a tragedy in D.C. a couple of weeks ago, taking the lives of so many, and there have been several others since, with one happening in Canada yesterday. A Delta Airlines plane crashed at Toronto Pearson Airport yesterday afternoon, injuring numerous passengers flying from the U.S. Here's what we know. The plane crash, which involved a Delta Airlines CRJ 900 jet. It had departed from Minneapolis. It was first reported by CTV. The flight was identified as Delta Connection Flight 4918, operated by Endeavor Air, and had 70 passengers aboard. The incident was reported at 2:45 p.m. local time. Pictures of the scene show the plane upside down, mangled on a snow-covered runway. 18 people were treated for injuries following the crash, including 3 who were critically injured and taken to the local hospitals, but are expected to recover. 2 patients were taken by air ambulance to 2 different trauma centers, Sunnybrook Health Science Center, St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. A spokesperson for the paramedic service on the scene said that a child about 4 years old was transported to the hospital for sick children in Toronto. Peel Regional Paramedic Services Superintendent Lawrence Sadin told Fox News those 3 were critical, non-life-threatening injuries. The remaining ones are all walking wounded with cuts and scrapes, nothing serious at all. Now, if you saw the images of this airplane, it makes you wonder how. The plane was upside down. The fuselage looked to be burned, charcoal. So there evidently was a fire. Toronto Pearson Airport operations paused shortly following the crash. Departures and arrivals resumed around 5 p.m. So they got this cleared out pretty quickly. The Federal Aviation Administration released a statement yesterday afternoon stating that the crash took place while the aircraft was landing. All passengers and crew were immediately evacuated. The FAA noted the Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be in charge of the investigation and will provide any updates. Toronto Pearson confirmed the crash by posting on X, said that all the plane's passengers and crew are accounted for. Air traffic control sounds from the incident indicate that the winds at the airport at the time were roughly 20 to 30 miles per hour, with gusts nearly 40 miles per hour. Those are some heavy winds to be landing in. Very well could have been wind shear that just suddenly flipped the plane on its back. A helicopter pilot who witnessed the crash said that the plane was upside down and burning. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said in a social media post that he was aware of the incident and was monitoring it. He said, FAA investigators are en route to Toronto. I've been in touch with my counterpart in Canada to offer assistance and to help with the investigation. Now, yesterday's crash comes amid a very turbulent season for air travel. As someone who gets on an airplane quite often during the year, it certainly has my attention. In January, again, just outside of on the final approach at Washington Reagan, a place that I'll be going to in just a week or so, 67 people lost their lives when a military Black Hawk helicopter collided with American Airlines affiliated commercial flight from Kansas. Recent plane crashes have not been limited, of course, to the United States. A crash involving a Jeju air flight in South Korea killed 179 people when the aircraft crashed into an airport's concrete barrier, burst into flames. An Azerbaijan airline plane crashed into Kazakhstan on Christmas, killing 38 people, injuring 29. So you get my point here. A lot of accidents recently, which makes you ask the question, is air travel safe? And despite these aviation disasters across the country in recent weeks and growing concerns about the safety of flying, aviation experts say there's nothing to fear. The United States experienced these 3 fatal plane crashes in just 8 days, beginning with the deadliest that I mentioned outside of Washington, where the Army Black Hawk collided with the American Airlines. Days later, a medevac plane carrying a young girl, her mother, and 4 crew members crashed near the Roosevelt Mall in Philadelphia, killing all those on the plane. A commuter plane was then found wrecked off of the coast of Alaska on February the 7th, with all 10 people on board deceased. These are just some examples of recent catastrophes. Federal Aviation Administration lists the 10 most frequent causes for factors for general aviation accidents involving the pilot. Inadequate pre-flight preparation, failure to obtain and or maintain flying speed, failure to maintain direction control and proper level off, and the list goes on, things that only mean something to pilots. The FAA writes, this list remains relatively stable and points out the need for continued refresher training to establish a higher level of flight proficiency for all pilots. They go on to say that flyers don't need to look at these 10 points, or any of the data for that matter, explaining that the recent aviation tragedies were, quote, a situation where we've had a couple of human errors and systemic errors, and they're fixed. I don't know what all those were, and we still don't know for sure what has led to these disasters. But according to this, it makes you believe that it was human error. A Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport tower supervisor allegedly let another air traffic controller leave work early on the night of the D.C. collision. The FAA calls for one controller to monitor planes and another to monitor helicopters. That wasn't happening that night. An internal preliminary report from the FAA indicated that staffing levels at the time of the collision were not normal for that time of day and that volume of traffic. So again, suggesting human error. With different aircraft involved in recent aviation accidents, authorities say, and they've discussed whether commercial and general aviation vary in safety, saying commercial airplanes are under much stricter safety rules and safety oversight than our privately owned airplanes. That much said, there's no indication of any major safety issues whatsoever with general aviation compared to commercial aviation. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told Fox News that America's skies remain the safest in the world, but that many of the FAA systems remain antiquated and changes could be made to improve them. Now, I like the idea that they're wanting to improve. I like that very much. It makes me a little concerned, though, when he calls our systems antiquated. It makes me pause on whether or not I want to get on an airplane anytime soon, but I got to. I'm going to be on an airplane in about 10 days. And then again a couple of months later. Do you feel safe under the current conditions? Is this just a rash? Or is there something going on here that we just don't see? Whatever it is, I hope aviation officials really take this seriously and they make sure that things like the D.C. crash doesn't happen again. I told you yesterday about some examples of DOGE-related expenses, monies that had seemingly been lost or misplaced by Joe Biden's administration. One of the examples I gave you was HUD Secretary Scott Turner saying that they had found $1.9 billion in HUD money that had been sitting around that had been lost in the bureaucratic abyss until he and his team went in and started looking around, looking under the hood, so to speak. We're hearing just all types of stories like this, as if nobody has cared about how our money has been spent. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, Elon Musk is DOGE team Money is being recovered, is being redirected. And we're just a month in. It doesn't stop with HUD either. I mean, there's not a federal agency that is immune from this. The federal government, we've all suspected it, but it's proven now that the federal government, they haven't cared about our money, how our money was spent. And when you start reading of some of the examples, and Elon Musk or the DOGE account on X posted their latest list the other day. Let me read to you some of these programs. Now, this list is actual contracts that Elon Musk has already canceled. For example, U.S. taxpayer dollars were going to be spent on $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcision. Have no idea what that is. But $10 million of our money was going to go to it. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. I don't even know what that means. $2.3 million for, quote, strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. Now, I don't know what independent voices in Cambodia is, but I know I don't care whether they're independent or not. Cambodia can take care of themselves. It'd be one thing if this was maybe buying some food for some hungry children, but strengthening independent voices, no. I'll opt out of that one. It gets better. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center. Again, I have no idea what the Prague Civil Society Center is, but I know I don't want $32 million of our tax dollars going there. $40 million for, get this, Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Hub. Doesn't say where it is, what country it's in. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. Do you care how public procurement in Serbia is? I didn't think so. Now, here's the biggie. This is the granddaddy of them all for now. $486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova and $21 million for voter turnout in India. Do you care about voter turnout in India? Again, I didn't think so. $29 million to strengthening political landscape in Bangladesh. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Another $19 million for biodiversity conservation in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Libya. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in Southern Africa. You think I'm making this up, don't you? I'm reading it right from the post that DOGE put on X and was reposted by Donald J. Trump himself. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic cohesion among marginalized communities of Kosovo, Roma, and Egypt. And the list goes on. This is what those idiots in Washington have been spending our money on. And again, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, the big story yesterday was some leaked internal documents from Elon Musk's DOGE and how the team intended to carry out the purge of DEI initiatives from the federal government. And it reveals who is next on the chopping block. The records were obtained by the Washington Post. They offer a step-by-step game plan in 3 phases for the White House to rid the federal government of offices and employees who work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So here's what we learned. Phase 1 outlined moves on Trump's first day to initiate the purge, so to speak. Phase 2 implements firings and spending cuts over the next 30 days. We're kind of in that period. And then Phase 3 broadens the scale of the effort over the ensuing 6 months. With Phase 2 of the plan set to conclude this week, However, the DOGE team is poised to move beyond expelling employees and offices explicitly dedicated to DEI. Phase 3 targets non-DEI employees and offices enshrined by law that work to uphold equal rights across what DOGE described as corrupted branches of government, according to the Washington Post. Now, acknowledging the legal challenges with doing so, the plan, which again was last updated in mid-January, reads, "We are exploring options for this." Actions on Trump's first day, January 20th, made up the entire Phase 1 plan of DOGE's, of the DOGE document. And the president followed the playbook to a T. Trump issued the 2 executive orders Musk's team had prescribed that rescinded former President Joe Biden's orders on DEI, dissolving 2 key councils on race and gender. Check. The plan also advised placing DEI employees on administrative leave. The Office of Personnel Management used an email template that was almost a perfect match for the one option drafted by DOGE. The new administration also followed DOGE's recommendations to remove DEI initiatives from government websites. Check, check, check. Phase 2 of the plan, again, currently underway, spans days 2 through 30, which takes us through this week, centered on further firings and canceling DEI-related funding. This has just driven people insane, driven the left insane, Democrats insane, because they don't think we should be able to do this. They've gone so far as some employees have had their job descriptions changed. Their titles have been changed on websites. No longer are they proud to be part of the DEI initiative. Now, there's some employees that are targeted that have been identified because of, again, the title, the name of their office, or of the position they hold, unless they changed it. Phase 3 kicks off later this month and would run through July, and it seeks to expand the dismissal of employees that have any ties to DEI whatsoever. The document states, per the Washington Post, there are DEI-focused personnel embedded throughout divisions that do not have any identifying DEI criteria in their name. Phase 2 and 3 will be focused on identifying these employees and putting them on administrative leave. So basically, we're going to seek them out. We're going to flush them out. And then we're going to dismiss them if, in fact, their job is based on DEI principles. Now, again, the left and the Democrats, they think this is all bad stuff. The Washington Post, when they printed this and when they released this, they weren't doing it because they thought it was a good thing on Trump's part. They're doing it because they think it's bad. They think it's horrendous that Donald Trump would want to eliminate any reference to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and particularly eliminate jobs that Joe Biden and his administration made up out of thin air. They just decided we're going to have a director of DEI here. We're going to have a coordinator of DEI over here. We're going to spend millions of dollars to do this, and everybody's going to be happy because we're all going to be equal. We're all going to respect one another. We all know it's not that simple. But that's how they think it was going to happen. And boy, are they in for a rude awakening. And they think that the American people are going to be upset about this. But in reality, the American people are pretty okay with this. The American people are tired of hearing about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're tired of hearing about people being hired for jobs that they're not qualified to do, but because of the color of their skin or because the gender they identify as, it suddenly qualifies them, and they're paid well to do it. There's a new day in this country at so many different levels, and boy, should we be proud of being a part of this part of history, because we're literally turning the country around, folks. That's what's happening. Now, again, we're just a month into this, and there's a lot of work to be done, and let's not forget who's been in charge for the last decade or so, and how the Democrats and the deep state bureaucrats And the career politicians, Democrat and Republican, they don't want us to know just how bad this is, how badly they've mismanaged our money. But here's the good news. Trump and Musk are on it. That's exactly why President Trump tapped Elon Musk to run the Department of Government Efficiency, to dig into the fraud, to clean house, and to finally hold the bureaucrats accountable. And we're going to be a big part of it. We're going to hold their feet to the fire, and we're just getting started. I mean, the Treasury Department just recouping $31 million in improper government payments that were sent to dead people. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Imagine what we'll find when we start tearing through the rest of the corrupt mess. And finally, I think we found somebody through Donald Trump and Elon Musk who doesn't mind doing this, who doesn't mind upsetting the apple cart. And we're going to be right there with them every step of the way. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, we had a huge response to the story yesterday about the South Carolina parks who's offering free charging stations for your electric vehicles. Judy on the MyPillow text line had this to say about that.
Good morning. We listen to you every day and enjoy your wake-up call. I hope you can understand me. I have kind of a cold right now, but my name is Judy, and I have one comment about the electricity in the cars. Why is it that we still get calls every year wanting us to get in a program where they turn our power off to conserve electricity a certain length of time? And we always tell them no. But that's, why is this program in existence if we've got so much power, so much electricity that we can use it in all these cars? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, and your messages are welcome on the MyPillow message line as well, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code JOEY when you go to MyPillow.com to get the very best deal that you can get. There's a lot of wonderful savings right now. The flannel sheets are on sale at MyPillow.com, and Mike Lindell has extended his all free shipping. All orders get free shipping right now. So go to MyPillow.com. Just go ahead and pick out what you need, and then use promo code JOEY at checkout, and you'll receive the discount. Paul writes on the text line, DOGE for South Carolina. I don't trust any politician. Maybe I'm jaded having left Illinois 25 years ago. The political system seems to be run by the same good old boy system, both there and here. Paul, I hope we're a little bit different here in South Carolina versus Illinois, but we're glad to have you here. Tony writes, Joey, I'm hearing people say charges are coming for politicians who have been ripping off taxpayers, but why do I call it a bluff? Is it because the Republicans have never done anything to earn my trust that they're going to do anything to Democrat politicians? I don't know, Tony. We'll have to wait and see. Jerry and Landrum. Hey, Joey, I wonder if I've been pronouncing Ocasio wrong. I thought Ocasio rhymed with Ocrazio. Well, maybe I've been pronouncing it wrong, Jerry. Chris writes, hello, Joey. I just wanted to tell you that I'm enjoying every single minute of listening to you on the radio. It's so refreshing hearing your voice, but I'm sure after today your voice will be tired. Appreciate all that you do. Chris is talking about yesterday. I had a bit of a marathon. I started out with my early morning shift. I did the Mike Gallagher show, 9 until noon, and then I filled in for Bill Frady on 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas, from 12 to 3. So I had a busy day, but it was a fun day. I got to talk to a lot of you, got to field your text messages, your emails, and, of course, your phone calls. Texter, Joey, what a day. You were busier than a one-armed paper hanger. Great job all around. Thank you. We appreciate it. Another, hey, look, yeah. Hope there wasn't too much. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. But I won't do that very often, for sure. I kind of overbooked myself. I realize that Joe Biden is a thing of the past. And I've actually had a couple of people who have written me and said, hey, just lay off of Joe Biden. He's gone. He's a has-been. He's history. And I get that. But every time I see a story about Biden and how he took advantage of us, Joe Biden, we have just learned his attendance, if you will, has been publicly released. And we've learned that he spent 577 days away from his job as president. 577 vacation days out of 1,463 that he was president. He had a 39% rate of vacations. That's about the worst in recent history. Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, in comparison, vacationed just 11% of their two-term presidents. George W. Bush was close. He was at 35%. Jimmy Carter, though, had them all beat. He was a workaholic compared to the others. Carter took only 79 days out of the 4 years he was in office, which is equates to 5% of his single term. Wow. It just makes me angry all over again thinking about Joe Biden sleeping on the beach when he should be tending to the business of the nation. All right, let's end on a positive story here. We talk a lot about what's wrong with America, corrupt politicians, government waste, the left's obsession with control. Let's take a moment here and talk about what's right with America, and that's hardworking, patriotic Americans like Joclita Wilson. Joclita is a 100-year-old dynamo who's still working, still living independently, still living life on her terms. Here's the story. This incredible woman works 2 mornings a week at Home Depot in Louisville, Kentucky. And get this, she's the oldest employee in the entire country for the company. She loves it. She chooses to work because she says she wants to stay active, she wants to stay social, and keep her mind sharp. Imagine that. Meanwhile, we've got 25-year-olds whining that work is too stressful. We have federal employees who are refusing to go back to the office. They'd rather just retire. Maybe they should take a lesson from Joclita. Here's what I love. This woman has retired 3 times, and she keeps going back to work because she says she gets bored. I mean, folks, what a testament to the American spirit. This is the kind of grit, resilience, work ethic that built this country. And we should embrace this. Now, Joclita isn't just working. She's living. She still drives. She lives independently. She cooks for herself. She even dances 1 time a week. Oh, yeah. And she's a former professional dancer. So she owned a dance academy for 37 years. And she loves to bust a move, as she says, with her Alexa speaker. She plays music. She paints. She says she even is learning piano at 100 years old. And here's the kicker. This woman is a 3-time cancer survivor. She's beaten breast cancer, emphysema, and she keeps on going. How? By taking care of herself, staying positive, and not sweating the small stuff, she says. She even cut out sugar from her after her diagnosis. But, hey, she still treats herself to a slice of chocolate cake every now and then, she says. It's what she calls balance. We could all learn from this. When you ask her the secret to living a long and fulfilling life, she says it's not about diet or exercise. She takes care of herself, she says, but she says it's all about her attitude. She says, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't let everything make you angry. Anger takes a lot of good out of your life, she says, so it's much easier to think positive than to think negative. And that's something that we all could take to heart. That's something I certainly could. because as I think about Joe Biden being on vacation 577 days, that makes me angry. But I gotta listen to Joe Cleta. We're going to start living like Joe Cleta. And let me tell you, we need more Joe Cleta Wilsons in this country. This is the real American spirit. The left wants you to believe that hard work is a bad thing, that aging means slowing down, that life is all about victimhood. Joe Cleta Wilson is proof that you can stay sharp, that you can stay strong, that you can keep living life to the fullest if you choose to do so, if you choose to have that positive attitude that she talks about. What do you think? Can we all take a moment today and think about Joe Cleta at 100 years old being the oldest employee at Home Depot? And maybe, just maybe, think about adopting some of her strategy here. And maybe when we get irritated, annoyed at what the left is doing, we just think about our attitude. We think about staying positive. We think about the fact that, hey, Donald Trump's president. Things have changed. We have hope. So to Joe Cleta Wilson, I salute you. Keep dancing, keep working, keep inspiring Americans to be their best. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.